The story was set in a traditional area of Yamanashi Prefecture. When I think about it now, it was the first time I had heard such spine-chilling, horrifying stories and experiences. Immediately after graduating from university, I got a job at a major publishing company. But after 3 years, I wrote a letter of resignation and left the company. In order to become an occult writer, which he had always admired, he embarked on a journey to hear horror stories from all over the country. It was a ghost story from a strong mother who is now a full grown woman and has 3 children. The woman was a naive girl who lived in a lonely and simple hot spring town that appeared this time. I didn't feel any inconvenience in the mountainous area where he lived, but as he got older, his thought began to change. By the time I was 50 years old, I became conscious of man, even if I didn't like it, and what I saw and heard grew more and more mature day by day. When she reached the entrance of adulthood, the first thing she fell in love with was her interest in male idol in Tokyo. The idol was the top idol with the momentum of dropping a flying bird, and if it appeared in magazines and movies, it ran at the top of the box office. The prosperity of her youth was very rich and generous, with the frenzy just before the bubble burst. When he entered high school, his desire for a part-time job increased and combined with his excessive physical strength, he began to work part-time at a sushi restaurant and a bookstore on weekdays. After school, he alternated between a sushi restaurant and a bookstore, and on Saturday and Sundays, he would spend the reward on these favorite activities, which he was obsessed with at the time. Naturally, Idol T is active in Tokyo, and their main base is limited to the Kanto region. As a result, he would have to move to Tokyo on a daily basis as a recommended activity, and the round trip transportation and activity expenses would be enormous. One of the tendencies that tends to fall into adolescence is that once you get absorbed in it, you can't see anything else, and life gets stuck in one direction. She too becomes the center of her life, and she continues to make fleeting efforts to turn what she sees and touches into memories of him. One night, however, at a time when she pitch black darkness en- enveloped her, which could almost be described as the middle of the night. That horrible event struck her. For a moment, it seemed like an illusion, but it was indeed the very essence of the truth. Ah, a commemorative concert to commemorate the third anniversary of Idol. T's debut will be held at the Ryogoku Kokugikan in Tokyo. So A suppressed his enthusiasm and headed to Tokyo. It was a Sunday night like early summer when the heat and humidity stood out after the long spring holidays. The route from where I lived to the concert venue in Tokyo was to take a private railway via a village bus. After the concert ended with a bang, I took out a fan with my name on it that I had kept in my bag to cool down my mind and body. And as I was fanning it near my face, I felt a suspicious sign of powerlessness on the left side of my line of sight. At first, I thought it was a freshly arrived conductor of another passenger, but when I looked closely, I saw a girl who looked like a small child sitting in the same seat as me. Her hair hangs down on either side of her shoulders, and she looks down sideways. The distance from her to here may be about 10 meters, but I can't classify her age in detail. I think it's probably about the one first and second grade of elementary school. But if you look at the side of the hair and the color of the hair, it may be a little more of an adult child. The only lighting in the train was daytime white fluorescent lights, so I couldn't clearly recognize her presence became it felt dim. He seems to be in ponderous mood and doesn't seem to pay attention to the surrounding situation, just looking down. His right hand, a razor both hands, is clenched into a fist. I felt as if I was standing there with my hands clasped tightly and with my hand on my knees in age use. The economic wave was still on the up, up, upswing, and there was a positive rhythm in which the wind was moving in the direction of the general public, and people were moving with energy. Even so, the trend in Japan, a developed country where suicide of young people and incidents of unknown causes of death frequently occur, has not changed, and we often see table tragedies. What if she suicidal or runway girl? I was upset that the delusion that was not sure whether it was true or false was going around in his head. The car A is riding is around the middle of a relatively large 10-car train, and there are almost no passengers in the front and rear cars. The incident occurred at a station that before passing in front of a long tunnel just as I was finally able to sit down after pushing a full load of passengers from Tokyo to board the train. The girl disappeared. It takes about 1.5 hours to get home from Tokyo one way. Naturally, the farther you go from the city to the countryside, the fewer passengers. There, the station was a small station just before entering the mountainous area from Tokyo, and it was a quiet and lonely station building with sparse passengers getting on and off. The total length of the station is about 500 meters, which is long despite its slender length. The building, made of old wood, was grand enough to create a retro atmosphere. It looked like a typical country station, but from the downward direction of the station, A, it was the direction of travel, but a huge stone brick cave tunnel towered ahead. It was an eerie fortress tunnel of considerable size, more than 50 meters long and wide. That girl, that strange woman, suddenly disappeared while she was stopped at the tunnel station. This national line stops at each station, and the alighting time becomes shorter and shorter as you leave the city. It was self-evident that the fewer passengers there were, the less cost it would be. I was too young to suspect that her eyesight was fading, and the presence of the girl, who had been in his field of vision for too much time, was a real object. My eyes are normal. That girl was indeed sitting here. If so, did he see a phantom being like a kind of mirage? I quietly closed his eye. Calm yourself down and take a deep breath. I decided that depending on the timing, there would be times when she brain would create and imagine something that the devil would put into it, or something that should not be seen even so. I was left with a strong impression that I could not get away from my memory. It's an unusually black eyeball. I glanced back at her for a few seconds, which she glanced back at me for a moment. Most of the eyeballs were black eyes, and there were no white at all. No, there is no such thing as a human being who only has black eyes and no white eyes. I felt a chill run down his brain spine, but he thought it would be better to forget about this immediately, so he closed his eye even deeper and shut up. It's going to be little a while before we get home, so I'm going to get some sleep. I returned home with the hope that there must be a different wood outside this tunnel. Its use was going well. My fulfilling high school life was coming to an end, and I managed to pass the recommendation exam to enter a vocational school for nursing, which was my career path after graduation. 3 months later, I had completely forgotten what happened at the tunnel station that crushed my soul. Aid School of Education, which had become a prank for living in the countryside, was about to change drastically with the career path to study for fledged nursing. It was officially decided that she would be admitted to a large nursing school in an urban area a short distance from her home. But Mr. T's activities were still active. She is well aware of what her parents who live with her from the able to of living at her parents' house say it quickly, but the maiden heart and passion that she raised are not fading, but are burning more and more hotly. As business shifted to an extremely busy schedule of part-time work and support for Mr. T. It was one such time. Again, I encountered the horror of that time again. This time it was an even more horror drama that occurred with he was with Y, who was being his friend on street, streets since elementary school. It was a hot and humid day, and the heat was so hot that it was disgusting, that it covered the cars of the JNR line, which I always used when I got to Tokyo. The cold air of the air conditioner running at full speed passes through each station and escapes miserably every time it opens and closes, and the hot air of the outside air mercilessly enters the car. I made an appointment with Y a few days ago on Sunday, and I made arrangements to accompany A on my trip on Saturday. The season was in the latter half of July, but the rainy season was not likely to end, and it could be said that it was a weak, rainy season with light rain falling in the morning and evening. My best friend Y is a more cheerful and lively woman than I am, and the conversation on the train with her goes on at uninterrupted intervals, sometimes tirelessly. She seemed to be illegible to the horror of that moment, but she mattered. Hey, Waiko, it's okay. Yes, why, who had been cheerfully talking about the latest situation until just a few minutes ago, suddenly turned his head and fell silent. He is looking down and looks very sick. When I, when I looked closely, I saw that she was crying with her shoulders shaking slightly. Waiko, what wrong? My stomach hurts. Yes, there's a kid sitting over there. What? I looked in the direction that I was straining in fear and the crazy gaze of 3 months ago. That he had been at the time attacking him again. On the train. Oh, I looked around, desperately trying to suppress his agitation, and stopped at the station. Ahead of him was an eerie brick cavern overlooking the train, a tunnel, and a young girl sitting. Uh, desperately tried to calm himself down, making sure that his heart was pounding fast and fast. That fear comes back to me again. I felt endless anger and sadness, and the magical charm that struck the soul of the viewer. I feel an intense pressure that doesn't allow me to look at it twice, even if it's okay the first time. It was like watching Dreamer in a legend that suck up souls. It's okay, white child. It's all my fault. Be a little tired. Everybody will be in the bind. I tried to appear why by distracting him with an almost irrelevant analogy, but Wise gazed glued to the child. This concern ended up increasing Wise's anxiety. Wise sat back on his knees, facing the child, his hand on his knees and his fist clenched tightly. His face is pale and his forehead is dropping with sweat. His face looked like that of a terminally ill cancer patient, and he seemed to be under a lot of stress. Let's get off at Waiko Station. Hey, that kid has something. What are you talking about? I turned his gaze to the side, worried about his physical condition, and saw an unbelievable sight in his eyes. The child is holding something. It's a new neck. It's a low neck. Neck, no. I held her mouth with both hands and endured it. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the girl, and he seemed to be very confused by a strange look that could be impressed as either anger or fear. Why? There are no such thing as a child head. This is a train. It's okay to calm down. A. Gently squeezed the shoulder of Y, who was sitting next to him, and stared at the child again, desperately trying to shake off the traumatic fear they had seen before. I felt that it was a coincidence that the situation was exactly the same at the time of day 3 months ago. But I needed to muster up the courage to make drastic action here in order to quell Wise's fear. I moved diagonally forward and attempted to fully shield the guard from the opposite side. The guard is indeed sitting. He was brown elastic stockings, probably for children, and wear a plaid flannel shirt and a light pink down vest. The front side is open as an example of a low neck, but it may look like a low neck, but it was a mannequin that was copied as a low neck. The distance between the child and the child was about 5 meters, so the figure could be clearly recognized. The low neck that you are holding looks like a new neck, and it is completely that neck of a doll. It was not modern, but probably quite old. It was not a so-called Japan doll, but the neck of a votive doll used by priests such as sorcerers, corsets, and omyoji. Even so, it is a bizarre sight. Anyway, the girl outfit was full of discomfort. In this extremely hot season, it started out like the middle of winter compared to the heat of the city, which has become a concrete jungle. The climate on this mountainside certainly had a slight chance of feeling cold, but wearing such a midwinter outfit is either a complete mismatch or an anomaly. Moreover, it was an unusual sight for a young child to travel alone on a train. I decided that this was completely dangerous and decided to get off at the station where it was stopped for the time being. I rounded at this tunnel station. There are no people around the station and it is quiet. When that happens, there is an eerie silence that does not allow you to hear the miscellaneous sound of life over the hustle and bustle of the city. While physical condition was max, and if he stayed on the train any longer, he was in danger of collapsing. I made a calm judgment and considered each other's conditions and chose to take a short break at this station and go home with a calm mind. When I landed on the platform of the station, the dusk was suspiciously dyeing the station building a crimson color. The contrast between the retro building and the old tunnel towering over it gave me the impression that I had entered a movie set somewhere. There was a tunnel about 50 meters from the end of the station building, but the eerie feeling of getting off the train and looking at it was even more intense from the direct feeling. The ramps of the earth bricks that had turned red and black and were about to collapse were also built into poor quality motor, giving its atmosphere of an old steel mill our foundry. On the left side, the national highway runs downward, and on the right side sits 1,000-meter high mountain forming a steep ridge slope toward it. Apparently, this tunnel was built by caving out a part of the mountain. As they walked further, they saw an iron door on the left side of the tunnel. The 3-meter tall leaves growing on the left and right to make a faint noise in place on the light breeze of the summer breeze. The iron door is old and damaged, and there is white scar here and there that has been pried off and fallen here and there, probably due to paint repair. Hey, why are we here? Let's go home. Why the statement was justified. After getting off the train, A and Y approach this tunnel as if they are being sucked in by something and are about to enter through a suspicious looking door. No matter how you think about it, it seemed like a dangerous development and a risky choice. While I saw something that we shouldn't have seen each other. I don't know what it was, but I felt like there might be something in this place. I do, but I feel like I should never go there. Wise expression seemed to have calmed down a little after getting off the bus, but she's still painting painfully. The paleness of his face seemed to have been somewhat alleviated by the intake of the outside air. It's so okay. I think you can look at it for a while and then turn back if it doesn't work. Hey, you were injured somewhere with blood on your clothes. It doesn't hurt anywhere. I wonder if you touched the carcass of an animal. I could see that the front part of the right side of the t-shirt he was wearing was stained with a pigment that looked like a blood deposit. The blood of an animal injured by touching leaves or leaves may have gotten on the clothes. I walked in with while opening the rusty iron door heavily. When you enter, it is made like a corridor made of earthen walls, and it continued to the top. Even though it was a corridor, it was not such a big thing, but it was very crude construction that looked like a simple piece of plastic. It seems that a lot of time has passed, and the cracks and the chips can be seen here and there. Myself and Y huddled together as we climbed up a narrow path that was barely large enough for humans to pass along until it reached the top of the tunnel. Inside, the sun had not yet set, so it was dim, and faint sunlight was leaking from the left wall stair. The space, which is almost dark, is a very eerie and suspicious place. After about an hour of climbing, I came out to the top of the buck. Oh my gosh, where did it come from? At the top of the dark staircase, an elderly man with gray hair and a hood suddenly appeared. He had a big smile on his face and welcoming attitude. The two of them, who had imagined that they would not be able to fit a human, were surprised by the unexpected development. What's going on here? No, no, nothing. Just nothing. Simply, it's just that a young man climbs up here and throws himself into it. Something like a squirrel goes out and what is over you. Hey, that's a look of work. Lot of work. A was surprised by the sudden response, but he adjusted his breathing and looked around calmly. The size of the rooftop was about 330 tsubo, which was large enough to build a small house. The whole area is flat, and there are partitions here and there with beads and blocks. I wonder if this old woman is in charge. I don't know where my aunt came from, but I think it's far from the station. I'm going to be able to get out of this back village, and I'm going to be out of town. We came from town, and on the way back, we got kind of scared of this tunnel. The daughter who takes her seems to cry terribly, but she must have been cured. Her melancholy was now bloodless and almost emotionless, but it was made even more debilitating by the exhaustion of strength she had climbed. I decided to sit on the nearby cobblestones and see what was going on. Thanks to the old lady, the number of people throwing themselves has decreased, and this tunnel may have a meaning. People these days only think about themselves and they can't escape responsibility for what they, they've done no matter where they go. But those who choose to die must be in a lot of pain. It's selfish and everything you say is your fault. From the moment she finished hearing the word painful thoughts, the old woman's expression suddenly became grim. The wrinkles on her face deepened, and she fell silent, the fist in both hands clenched tightly, and they shuddered. It felt like he was about to get up and go on a rampage. Grandma, we know that this is a scary place, so we are going home. A and Y descended the tunnel and returned to the station building with a slight regret, as if that they had seen something they shouldn't have seen. It was about 1 from 2 kilometer round trip from the station building, but fatigue and lack of energy hit me all at once, as if I had just finished running a half marathon. As the way he was tired, while his exhaustion was extraordinary. The water in the body had disappeared and the face looked like dried parchment. She seemed to have suddenly turned into a languid old woman who was more than 10 years older. I'm sorry to bring you back to this place. I'm not going back. I'll never be there. Where I shouldn't go to that place again. My attempt to casually enjoy my daily trip was ruined by an incident on the way home. I haven't seen her since then. I stopped responding to my email and SMS, and I didn't answer the phone for days. Friendship is vital support for idle tea, and a situation where the holiday has been covered in darkness by that fear again. However, further fear develops to a level that cannot be avoided. From that day on, I would continue to suffer the same horror every time he rode this train. Not only did she push tea, but she also began to appear on the way to work and shopping on holidays. The frequency of the occurrence increased, and eventually I began to see the appearance of a girl somewhere every day. At that time, she asked me to consult with her because I had encountered such a scary experience. I went to her apartment, half scared and half curious. Her appearance was filled with a sense of terror, and she seemed to be passing away. But she seemed to be refreshed and rather observant. The sadness and despair that I had heard on the phone beforehand is gone. Mr. A, thank you very much for giving us a very valuable talk today. It's not easy to hear such a strange story, but this is just thank you. But please keep it. I handed A an envelope with a token thank you and left. There were a few things I didn't understand, and I was tempted to ask for more details, but I stopped. The moment he saw her depressing face, he felt that the act was unkept. When I left her apartment, I came across a scene where a cold sweat broke out all over my body, just as she is in the next room. She hears the voice of Sutra that seems to be a Nembutsu. It was muffled, hellish voice that seemed to thrust up the in- intestines from below. When I stopped to go home and looked to the side, the entrance door was slightly open. When I looked inside, I saw a woman raising sutra at a small Buddhist altar. His back was hunched over, and he seemed to be begging desperately in front of the little Buddha. Mm, it was as if I was expressing the unspeakable confession of my soul with my whole body. I have something on my back. It's a woman. Whoa! A girlish child was wrapped around her neck and strangled her neck in a terrible manner. I frantically fled the scene. The shock was so intense that I almost tripped and fell down the stair several times. For the next 3 days, nothing was done. I wanted to investigate this matter in my own way, so I decided to visit the station building. When I go to the station building, the more of that horror story came back to me. There was a storage she'd like parking room on the upper side of the station building. I casually stopped by the spot and observed the surrounding when an elderly man with a bright voice called out to me from inside. Where did that come from? I don't see it around here. Yes, I had a strange experience, so I came here to investigate in detail. It's better to stay away from places like this, and nothing bad will happen. Can you tell us a little bit about it? The snail tried to be quiet with the snail, but there were a number of people on the railroad who were not in the way, so that the salt plum might be like a salt plum. What do you mean by that? It's a place where there is no hidden morning. This old man seems to be a person who is entrusted by the railway company to manage this place. And it turns out that the place is where the unrelated Buddha is buried for various reasons. It was a place that was erected to prove that the creature whose existence had been erased for grossly unjust reason was alive from this world, where maybe that God is also a ghost wandering around this place. About a month later, a major investigation by the railroad company was conducted on the tunnel. After a detailed analysis, it was found that the mysterious place built above the tunnel was a place where the deceased were mourning for some reason after the war. The subjects were unfortunate human and animal who had lived unfortunate lives, starting with suicide. An indescribable feeling of hugeness tore my feeling to shreds. The girl I saw on the train and the old woman I met on the tunnel may not be of this world. A is dangerous. Worry about A. I hurried to her apartment. There was a girl holding a red coat and trying to enter Aiko's room. I could only pray desperately on the spot. And